Hey, it's 20 millimeter RPG here, Rick. And with me, I have Abraham from Talking About Games. So, just to kind of point something out here to some people, some people may have heard about this RPG Crusade, and um, some of the things um, that we've kind of approached here in the last couple of weeks was an idea to bring all the role players kind of together under a kind of a banner and start our thing where we can start teaching in one place how to role play, give examples, show feature other players how to role play through example, and have it all basically within one kind of spot. So coming up within the next couple of weeks, we should have what you'll be seeing as www.rpgcrusade.com. Go ahead and bring up a little thing here for everybody to see. But I'm in brand. Let me go back to something else here. Branders. There we go. Boom, boom. Just like that. Professional, I tell you. But that will be happening right now. If you go there right now, you'll see just basically a blank page saying coming soon, basically. But what I'm doing is I'm building a what's called a CMS or a portal, and it's basically the back end of the of all the of all the wizardry in the back end of a web server, and basically it's going to take a little bit to go ahead and get all the bells and whistles going. But I've got some good choices here, and we're going to see this possibly come to fruition in some form or another within the next within the next week. The name RPG Crusade kind of it came through me through Shauner as a suggestion, and the way we discovered it was through um, what was Tyler's name?
Yeah, Tyler, Flame Zombie.
Flame Zombie, and yeah, we'll bring in Shadow and Sun as well here. Here we go, as well. Hey Shadow. Hey,
How you doing?
Good. So
hey, how's it going?
So yeah, I've been talking with Abe here, and I was like, yeah, this idea of having this RPG crusade.com where all kind of like-minded creators like me, Abe, Shauner, talking about games, the guys from what are they
Black
called?
Lodge?
Black Lodge. Yeah, I've talked to Black Lodge as well through Twitter, and let's see, there's a few others that are out there as well. So I was thinking that we could have this common website in order to get ideas put together on how to teach other people how to role play. Kind of like when RPG Grandma came into our game, and she was a premium example of role playing in that situation. I don't know if you seen that game, that one shot that we did, Abe.
Yeah, I think she did pretty good mostly, but I think she needs more practice when it comes to obtaining information through roleplay, because I did see her how she was like, what do I see? Or are there any, like, she have said something like, I look around the room to see if I can find, or
Yeah. Which I was
Nobody's
talking.
perfect.
Yeah, I was talking to Abe. I'm going like, Well, I'm kind of like, if you were to put us into a grade level of learning, me, I would be like maybe a C. Like at least I'm not D where I'm not doing it, or F where it's a total fail, but I'm C level where you can get acquainted with the concepts of role playing, and I'm a game master that will allow these concepts of role playing to occur within the game itself. And if you took something like Abe himself, he's like the A grade teacher that we all want to aspire to become one of these days. I know. I'm just oh, he's turning red. But no, you are Abe. You are a shining beacon in the RPG community in order for us to kind of get ideas from and follow. And um your teachings, all your videos that explain how it's done is intriguing. But once you've seen it's done by your example, you'll go, that's what he's talking about, and everything kind of falls into place. But the thing is, a lot of players that are out there watching our videos and stuff, they'll miss videos and they won't see certain things. They might see your video once and then they'll like take off, right?
Hmm.
I'm sub to Abe, and I haven't seen one of his videos, and it's been a while. I hit the notifications, the whole bit, but there's a whole lot of people that their videos just don't come in for whatever reason, and not to mention the unsubbing that's been going on lately.
Yeah, I've
So-
I've noticed a few of my subs have gone down recently too.
That's all from if you don't watch someone's channel a lot, then YouTube will do that, which is really messed up because Bo Paints Minis, he's a really good friend of mine, a really good GM, despite what Shauna might think. A really good role player. I was like his first or second subscriber,
Mhm.
and it was, I told him, dude, make a channel. He made a channel. I subbed. When he puts out a video, he's a good friend. So as soon as he puts out a video, I'm on it. I watch it, say hi, whatever. And like 2 weeks ago, I had to resub to his channel.
Oh, really? Oh,
Hmm.
yeah, that's whack.
Yeah, it really is. And as we hit that 750 mark, YouTube, they're going to be all over us to make sure we're worthy of the 1,000 subs to get monetized. So wish us luck.
That's
Mhm.
right. I'm putting my best into my production value lately, but you know, um, even that becomes kind of spotty every once in a while. I was trying to start the stream on time, but unfortunately, me and Sean Cherry were having issues trying to communicate. I think he's trying to fix
Today?
things on. Yeah, he's trying. He was trying to pop on just before we started, and then
Yeah, I
Abe
almost
came
missed
on.
the show. I was in the middle of dinner
Ah,
and a nap. I would do the same, but my son and I, we're currently working for 3 different RPG companies. Well, one or more of them are also miniature game companies, doing play testing and behind the scenes work. And he's getting ready to go to Mexico next week with his mom for
Um,
2 weeks. So it's going to be very difficult for me to do stuff without him. So I got to come up with stuff on my own. And wait till you see what he's been doing. You guys are going to be blown away for a 14-year-old kid. Oh my God, guy's a genius.
awesome.
Don't tell
Awesome.
anybody.
It'd be cool to
Yeah,
see
like-
the big surprise, the big reveal.
Yep.
So,
But
anyways,
I totally dig the Crusade idea. Count me in. If there's anything I can do to help you guys, just let me know.
it's going to be basically a site where I will have people come in as authors. So you will be given a an account, and you can sign in. If we go with the Drupal, you will be able to edit your if you create something, edit it, and put it up, you will be able to, from the front page, you don't have to go through the back end or anything. You can from the front page, it will see that you are there, that you are the author of it, and you will be able to do corrections right from the front page. So you don't need to go through the through any of the authoring in the back area, which is a nice thing about Drupal. So I'm trying Drupal, I'm trying Joomla in two different areas right now, and seeing how they work, how they function properly. I've worked on a lot of the graphics and stuff, so I have everything set up for the graphics and ready to go ahead and dump the graphics in there and then start writing some articles and stuff. But yeah, the articles will be role play centric, and trying to, you know, give ourselves an area where we can teach other people how to do this kind of thing. And I think something like that would really help, especially when there's a lot of role players that don't use YouTube at all, or just like us, we end up missing a lot of the videos that come through just because of the sheer amount. Like I have like 300 or so on subs that I am sub to. So sometimes I'm getting in reams and reams of different people coming through from I sub to a lot of AI, a lot of tech, some of the stuff that Sean or even subscribes to, like some of the Python stuff like that, because it's stuff that I'm interested to 3D you know, graphics
Right.
and stuff. And that's the thing, is a lot of it's bloat, and we got so much information coming in at us. Why not just have a site where if somebody's doing Twitch streams, somebody's doing the Odyssey streams, or Rumble, or whatever it is, whatever platform it is, you know, even Twitter, just have it feeding through, people bringing in these feeds all through one place where you can obtain all this information, categorize it, and be able to say, okay, I want to learn how to role play. Bingo, we've got the video for you. Here we go. Here's one of Abe's, you know, primer videos on how to do this. It'll give a little a synopsis, rundown, a summary below it, and then it'll get into the video. Maybe a few of us could go ahead and start like putting little like time numbers on each one in order for people to seek out the information that they're looking for in that particular video. So some of us can do that sort of thing as well too. But I do just want to have people to start writing articles and figuring out ways that we could present other people's ideas, and bring it in all into kind of one kind of banner, and build from there. See what other things that I had right on here. Yeah, just basically a panel of writers, video contributors, talk about real role play, and how to really role play, because that seems to be a confliction of things, people not realizing what role play actually is, because like I was talking with Abe just before we started, was you know, when we when I myself came back from playing many years ago in Ted's campaigns, and Ted's campaigns were rather more role play intensive, not quite as much as Abe is now in his games, but he did have the rules saying, you know, no out of character talk. Whatever you say is your character, and that was what keyed us in on being fully immersive in what we were doing. And we were kind of, we didn't have, we had the guys that were kind of eating the Cheetos and making noise. They kind of dwindled off, while us, you know, more role playing types kind of kept together and kept on playing our game, because we were so involved and invested in our characters and what adventures they were going on next. it was great. And then coming back today, well, actually back in 2007, when I basically returned into role playing, my kids started growing up, and coming into this, everybody's using virtual tabletops. Everybody's trying to do the Baldur's Gate computer program, computer game on a table, and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, this is what we're doing, and I kind of fell into that whole thing. Buying the virtual tabletop, making maps, making tokens, doing all that work, and then finally realizing, after I presented, like you can watch my videos today. You can see that I've used the virtual tabletop to the best as I could. And once we switched over to the theater of the mind role play and got rid of all those bells and whistles and everything, it became smooth sailing after that. It became a lot more fluid. We got a lot more done per session, 90-minute session. And it started going back to what we kind of had back at Ted's kind of days. And once Abraham came out with his video showing his playthrough with C4 Crispy, and what was the other guy's name?
Josh.
And what's his channel's name?
Full Metal States.
Oh, okay, Full Metal States. And seeing that, it was like, all right, cool. We have a great example here of what we're trying to achieve. And that was kind of like my, eye opener on where maybe that I could possibly proceed towards achieving, is what Abe is doing. However,
Shauner talks about the social contract before a game. Maybe something like that at the header of the website somewhere to distinguish, what most people think is regular role playing and what we hope to accomplish, getting people to be more immersive, to remove the things that we dislike about the concept of role playing, because so many people. I was on Table Breakers last week, and there isn't as fine a line as there should be between the two, because if you want to play one of the other style games, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Exactly.
We're never going to be able to reconquer the phrase role playing. So many other companies and things like that are out there that aren't going to make that distinction, don't care about that distinction, play your way, which is fine. I totally agree with that. But if you have people like us and you invite people like us into one of those games, we're going to be a little disappointed. There almost needs to be like a precursor to role playing, so that people go, oh, you mean those guys, without calling us theater geeks and drama majors and things like that, because we're not. We just want a little bit more immersive style role playing than what most people are familiar with. We are the minority by far when it comes to strict role playing, and in order to get more people into our swing of things, so to speak, it would be nice to be nice about it, and to let them know that there is a subtle difference. Maybe you'll like it, maybe you won't. Maybe you are more of the nuts and bolts, game mechanics, miniatures, all the bells and whistles, and maybe you're more completely theater of the mind, and maybe even use that more, the whole theater of the mind, because with that you don't want anything else. You really just want the people, the voices, the immersion.
Right. Yeah, because I did watch that bit. Well, not all of it, but quite a bit of that video, and yeah, there was a lot of assumptions, misconceptions being made on what was actually happening. It's like none of these guys have ever actually watched any of our videos, so they have no idea. So they're kind of talking basically out of their butts, right? Like technically, but I mean, it's just great to see that there are other people out there that have come upon Abraham's videos and are actually saying this is our inspiration, and that is a very cool thing. Even though Abraham, you have out of us a large channel, but it's still very small in comparison to something like uh, the DM's Lair or Bob World Builder or any of these other guys. I mean, they want to play the way that they want to play, but as far as you go ahead and put the question to them, what is role playing to you? They'll come up with a totally different answer than what we are trying to achieve here with our own games. So, any kind of input on there on that, Abe?
Well, I think I don't know if you have seen some of my recent videos, but I was talking about this distortion that is being created. It's related to so many things. On the business side, a lot of people still want to push miniatures, maps, all of that, because there is a business there. You can sell miniatures, you can sell the maps. And on the other hand, we have those that do not roleplay because they were never interested in role-playing. So they want to paint it as acting. And I have shown in one of my videos, you can play a role without acting, just describing your actions. You don't need to pretend that you're... And you have the other people that want to tell a story, but this is not telling a story. You're not speaking about something that happened. You are actually living the lives of the player characters. And you have others that just want to have a conversation, but this isn't a conversation. You are playing a role and you are playing a game. That's it. So you have to make a clear distinction with those distortions. Because like Shadow said, there is nothing wrong with playing tabletop RPGs however you like, but don't be dishonest about it that, oh, we're role-playing, and that's not roleplay at all.
I hate that term dishonest, because if you don't know that there is a difference, and even if you did, I mentioned this Thursday with Table Breakers. A lot of people, it's all up here. They think they're role playing. When I role play, for me, it's going to be in my head, and I'm not always worried about performing for the other players, so to speak. If I think I'm role playing, I'm not trying to be dishonest. Even now, when I know the difference of what we're talking about, the two different types, if I fail at it, I'm not doing it intentionally. So I don't think it's a lie per se. I think it's just a difference of opinions, because when I role play, I'm I may not be great at it sometimes. I may be a little distracted or something like that, but I truly think I'm trying to role play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there are people that are honestly trying to learn how to roleplay, but there are those, I have talked to many of them, that you tell them, no, roleplaying is not acting because you don't need to act. And I give them the example, you don't need to act. And they're like, yes, roleplaying is acting, but they are speaking nonsense. I have just showcased that you do not need to act. So I'm talking about those specific individuals. I'm not talking about...
I do like the word pretend more. It's a word more people can understand, especially if you were a child and pretended as a child, or have children and that you watch them pretend. That's an easier word for people, and it may have a childish connotation to it, but really that's an easy word to use. We are pretending to be someone else, and in doing so, we're doing it with other people that are okay with us pretending to be somebody else, and enjoying the entire process of doing it, and trying to get as immersed into it by doing it as best we can.
And it's actually a bit funny because the other time, Shoner, you know how Shoner is, he said, only if you're a retard, you cannot roleplay. But I said, well, when I was younger, I worked at this center with actually people with that syndrome. And they actually were better role players than the role players today. They were like, I'm running around with my gun, pew pew, and I'm shooting the bad guys. And they were describing their actions. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, that's perfect roleplay. So Chandler, that is incorrect. Even retards can roleplay if they want to.
Chandler has been corrected.
As a father, I watched my son grow up in our backyard role playing and I could see the DM gene in him. You know what I mean? He was telling his friends, you know, you're doing this and we're doing that, and I'm just shaking my head, just like, oh my god, it's a passable gene. He's got it in him. And just last week, you know, he's working on this other game project, you know, doing visual stuff, you know, artwork and what have you. And he's only 14, and he's only played a few games with me and his friends at school. And the other day he's like, Dad, I want a DM. One of the greatest days of my life.
So yeah, there something that's related to all of this too that we have to also realize is the players are one thing. You also have a game master, and in order for the role player players to play role playing, is to have a game master or DM, GM, whatever it is, referee that has that mindset as well in order to make that fulfill. Otherwise, if you say, for example, have somebody like I'm not slamming Bruce. Bruce loves his miniatures and stuff like that and everything. But you try to role play in his game, and it would be tough. It would be rather tough because you are surrounded by other people.
It was virtually impossible.
So
I was the only one trying, and it didn't work out because the other players just don't want that, you know.
yeah, so you do need the game master to be also in this kind of mindset as well in order for it to actually succeed. And that's where a lot of players out there are going to have a hard time is where do we find a game master that wants to do the role play instead of, the, maps, minis and all this. Where do we find these people? And if you don't find them, how do you find them? I mean, you can't. There's no place out there that says, okay, well, this guy does theater of the mind role play. This guy does the skirmish gaming kind of rolling, board gaming. It could. I'm not sure whether or not we could possibly organize stuff like that on RPG Crusade. It is a possibility to let people know what styles the game masters are each into.
Take back the old theater of the mind. You know, with that really describes it. And for years I didn't know what it was. I hadn't even heard of it until I met you guys. When you say theater of the mind, there's no special effects, there's no minis, there's no maps, maybe a little bit, I suppose, in dire emergency. But that to me best describes what we're all trying to accomplish is theater of the mind, because I like the theater part because we then go and show it as a visual or audio product on YouTube or wherever, so that people can tune in and actually listen. And if they want to see our facial expressions, cool, we're there too. I was rewatching one of your Shadows in the Stars videos, and it's the perfect example. This is what we do. This is what we want to portray, and this is how we want to do it. And if you can get into watching that, then you're halfway there. Sorry to hear you're not into minis. It's really a fun hobby on its own. I was painting miniatures before I was playing RPGs, and it's just a fun tactile way to, instead of making birdhouses, I make lots of little painted figures that my family will get to divvy up when I'm long gone. And what's up, nerd?
I'm into miniatures too, but I'm not into miniatures on my role playing table. I'll use the miniatures because I play two different types of traveler. One is actual traveler. The other one, which is role playing. The other one that I play is called Snapshot. But instead of playing the Snapshot rules, we use just the traveler rules because it's a lot more easier than using traveler rules to do the combats or the scenarios. Yeah. And if you open up that book, That book has so many charts in there that it'll spin your brain into a sour
Tiny
mush.
little book. Yeah, it was my introduction to Traveler.
Exactly.
I've had
that
this
was
over 40 freaking years.
yeah, that is in so nice pristine condition. And for those that don't know what that is, inside there's going to be 2 maps, right? Correct. There's the Beowulf,
Beowulf
and the scout ship in there. So, and they give you the little cardboard chits, the little 15 millimeter cardboard chits. So yeah, they're right there. And it was basically a board game, but a lot of players back then used to get the little 15 millimeter miniatures as well instead. And they would do the little skirmishes, and then it kind of drew people into it, realizing that there was a role playing game involved with it as well. And that's how I kind of became involved with Traveler way back in the day. And I mean, I love I love the miniatures, but like I said, it's got to be a skirmish game if I'm doing that, and it's not going to be a role playing game. So that's the big difference. We have a lot of people in the background here talking away. Oh, we also got RPG is dumb here as well. Hey, hopefully Jacob can make it in here as well. The invite's out there. I gave you the link. And Black Lodge. Anytime you Black Lodge guys want to pop in, I'll even post the link in here. Go ahead and do that. If you guys even want to pop in and join up, throw that in there for you. So Star Wars Space War games. Yeah, I mean there was so many wild board games back in the day that it really influenced a lot of people into getting into role playing and stuff as well. So when you see all the people that grew up with Baldur's Gate as a computer role playing game, and Neverwinter Nights, and all these, basically they're just, all they are is virtual tabletops played out by a computer. And in some cases, you have the ability to actually game master inside those games as well, specifically Neverwinter Nights and Neverwinter Nights 2, actually. And I did a little bit of that with some players as well. But once again, it's kind of like working with a virtual tabletop, which once again it drives me to insanity, because I hate being distracted that way. Ever since I switched over to doing full on theater of the mind, it has been for me such a relief, kind of like this big weight lifted off of my shoulders, that I don't have to go ahead and prepare maps, miniatures, tokens, NPC stats, all this stuff. And it just, yeah, it's insanity after a while. We got Max also in here as well. Okay, cool. I've never used that. That was one of the very first chat kind of things, almost like ICQ. ICQ was another one that came out at that time too. But,
I like Discord. It's got everything you need.
Discord's pretty good. The only thing I don't like is the balance between like you have to adjust levels on everybody in Discord. Otherwise, somebody will be like really loud. But at least it gives you that option. And this is StreamYard here, in case anybody's watching and going, oh, what interface are they using? StreamYard is self-balancing on the back end, so it does its own compression and effects in the back there, so everybody's levels are kind of at the same meter. But it's cool to see a whole bunch of guys in here. But that's the thing is we have our own little circle of people that talk about this. but we do need to go ahead and get a whole load of new people in it, trying it out, figuring out how to role play, have game masters out there that are willing to dedicate the time on the training for these people so that they can learn in earnest without feeling kind of like out of place, with a whole bunch of other people that are probably way more better than they are, and they'll kind of feel kind of scared of the whole thing. We have Hunger in the background here. I'm going to go ahead and add him to the stream as well.
It's also important that they become aware that role playing is quite easy in essence.
It really is.
Because
It really is.
if you have seen my games, pretty much everyone was a beginner in roleplay. Josh had been out of the game for 3 years, and he never roleplayed, and he learned how to roleplay in that session. Crispy had just started to roleplay. He got into it immediately with that session. Alberto, only 4 sessions in total in his life. 2 of those sessions, Mother May I, can my character do this, can my character do that? Excellent role player. Ryan, I don't know his personal history, but he seems to be fine. And Tyler has been role-playing for a long time, but in the other cases, they were beginners and they got into roleplay immediately.
Good, yeah.
We just got done with our Warhammer Fantasy role-playing game, and the only mini that was actually used was a mini used to describe one of the NPCs. Everything else was 100% roleplay. We had 2 combat sessions, 100% theater of the mind. Everything was theater of the mind, and it went so smooth and so easy. And I love minis. I love.
Is this with you and your brother James?
DM James, yeah.
Cool. And James was game mastering.
Yes, and
Awesome.
It was a 6. There's 6 players, 6 players at the table, because I'm actually at his house. I go back to see on the 30th. But yeah, James we were all sitting at the table, and it was just a really easy, fun, extremely enjoyable game. We went like 25 minutes past the normal time when we quit because everybody was so into the game that we lost time.
Awesome.
It was all theater of the mind.
But you guys don't broadcast your games. You need to broadcast them.
We're thinking about broadcasting a battle tomorrow.
Cool.
Normally I'm not here when we do the games. Normally I'm either an hour away here in Florida or I'm in Tennessee.
I mean, I've never seen James game master or anything, so all of my knowledge of what he does in a game is I have no idea.
We did do a one-shot Conan die 20 on a live stream.
Yeah,
that was a lot of fun.
So yeah. So do you think getting a GM Game Master James, I don't know what persona he's going underneath now. Do you think he's
GM James right now?
Do you think he's slowly becoming swayed to become a master of theater of the mind and
we've always done more theater of the mind than minis. And
Good.
I'm talking about a 30 shit. Yeah, no, more than 30, more like a, I don't know, 35-year career of RPG. And that would be cutting it short because I've been playing since I was around 10 years old. I'm 50 now. So yeah, we've always mostly been theater of the mind. Sometimes, we always have like little minis, especially everybody likes to have a mini that represents them, but most of the time our minis are set in front of our characters. A lot of times, I'd say 99% of the times we never throw minis on the board unless it's like a big combat. But for anything that's smaller, we've always done theater of the mind.
Have you watched any of Abraham's games? Hunger.
This is my first time meeting Abraham. How are you doing? Nice to meet you, sir.
Thanks.
I will be subbing to you before this video is over.
Awesome. I highly recommend it. It's a different take on the game. I know you've probably seen a few of mine because I think I've seen you in the background watching my sessions on Sunday.
Yeah,
And
I'm usually a little ninja.
awesome. But I'm, the way I kind of look at it, I'm kind of like that. Like I was saying, I'm kind of like that C-level kind of guy that brings people in, able to like experiment. Get yourself used to getting into the theater of the mind role play kind of aspect. But like I say, Abe takes it to a whole different level here, and it's very inspiring to watch him and his group play through a session, and you'll kind of go, okay, this is a little different, but you can see how it's done by example, and which I implore, man, you check out his playthroughs, and they're just fantastic. It's a
Yeah,
great to
with
watch.
our game tonight, my character in this game, he's more of a charismatic. I mean, he's a fencer,
Mhm.
but he's more charisma based character than anything else. So I rely very heavily on role play. It's like everything I do, rely on the role playing aspect because, I'm not going to intimidate anybody with role playing, but I can swath somebody with role playing because people say I'm a little charismatic. So I use that to full effect in RPG games and stuff like that. Why do you sit there laughing for, Shadow? Shadow. Oh, see, there's the DM James right there, Dungeon Master James.
There he is.
Oh, you guys have never
Hey,
seen me
he's-
bid. Well, maybe
he's-
once.
He's grumpy because I'm not actually having a game tonight.
No.
He's got to
I am missing it though.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah,
There's a couple of people who want to see examples of good role playing games, and I want them to come over and see it, so they get a really good idea of what it entails, and seeing a friendly face, that being mine, because they don't know most of you guys.
Guys, I'm going to bounce because it's past my bedtime.
All right, nice to see you there, Hunger. It's been a slice, and hope to see you pop in here again sometime.
Look at what Mr. Max Bovine wrote real quick. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Shadow.
Don't even sweat it, guys.
Love you, buddy.
With this mug, I have learned to take a joke.
See you tomorrow. Right?
Absolutely looking forward to it, my friend.
All right. You guys, great panel, great show. I like the idea of more people getting more into Mind's Eye Theater. Like I was telling them, James, that we played our whole game, and the only mini that was shown was one to represent a NPC. And I don't think we've used minis at all in the Warhammer Fantasy Role Playing game, but we've always been very much a Mind's Eye party group. Abraham, nice to meet you, sir.
Likewise.
So, like I was saying, when it comes to our group, it's basically an introductory kind of thing. It's to get people familiar. My players are learning. Shadow's learning. Spencer's learning. And just having a good teacher exemplar like Abraham really inspires the group to kind of turn up the knob a little bit on trying a little bit harder in staying in character and stuff, so which is good. And once again, like having our RPG Grandma pop in and become part of the group for that one shot was a good. It was fun playing with her a lot. I have to say, because it kind of felt like our old sessions.
Personality.
Yeah,
She's the one.
Yeah.
I just received a book in the mail from her today, and it says right on it, RPG Grandma to Shadow and Son. I'm like, I'll probably not get to it right away, but she's, like I said, she's when I met her and way back less than 6 months ago, I'm like, we're gonna make you famous, Grandma. Get ready for it. And sure enough, she's already up to 200 plus subs, and she's just a delightful person to to sit and watch and listen to her wisdom, and for us even better to get to game alongside.
She's yeah, I do. Like I said, I enjoyed that session with her. I hope she joins up with the rest of the games as well in the future. So that would be super cool. Because the more that you have of other people that do the actual role play, kind of helps the rest of the players follow kind of in that kind of line. Because when we had our little separation there, of stopping games, and then we came back, and it was kind of like, oh, it's getting, you have to get back into the mindset again, and start, thinking about, how you are presenting yourself in the game, and that can be tough sometimes after being away from it for a while, and then joining other people's games, and then falling back into kind of the old, your old bad habits or whatever you may want to call it, and then you try to rejoin the group, and it kind of feels like, I'm no longer, I was driving standard for a while, now I'm back in automatic, like kind of thing. If anybody's done that before, I don't think anybody drives standard anymore these days, but to me, that's kind of what it feels like. But yeah, that was another thing that I was thinking about with the RPG Crusade, is being able to have, a place where you can find a game master that will help you along and get you into role play, actual role play. So, which would be which would be cool. Once again, talking to a lot of these other YouTubers, like for example, like DM Slayer or something like that, or Bob World Builder. I keep on bringing them up, but they're prime examples of huge audiences of people. But you put to them the question, what is role play? And they would have no idea of what role play actually is. They'll probably think, it's, oh, you're playing your class. This is how you play your class, and that's totally not what it is. You're being that character. You're being that persona, and you've got it's like you put all the rules in the background, and you only use them if you need them, because as you're playing through your character, you solve all the problems that these Bob the World Builder are writing all these fancy little things about, on how to circumvent your players from running around and doing all these things, and trying to corral them together, herding cats or whatever it is you want to call it. But in the end, if your game master is truly a role player, he kind of lets go of all that control. And that's part of the zen of becoming a game master that becomes the role-playing game master, is letting go of that control. And all you are is basically that narrator of things that is occurring during the game, and arbiter of the results of the dice when something like combat occurs, or if they're trying to take apart the bomb before it blows up, and you describe things for them in order for them to get that picture in their mind of what's happening. A lot of cases, it's not worrying about where you place the bed, where you place the, as far as the game master, you give them all the tools of the room, and you let them play with it. And it's not your concern of whether or not it takes them one turn or two moves to go ahead and reach the door, or whatever it is that you've got locked in your head from playing 5e all the time, or whatever it is that you've played. But to be able to chill and relax, and not worry that you gave them all the tools, they decide on what they're going to do with them, and that's how it works. So.
Yes, because at its essence, running a game is actually simple. you present the world to the players, and through their player characters, they are going to interact with that world that you described, and then something happens. That's it. And so the game flows. But what you mentioned about, yes, the bigger YouTubers like Bob, the World Builder, etc., I think they end up backed into a corner a bit because they have been talking about roleplay. According to them, they have been talking about roleplay for so many years. And if suddenly you tell them, hey, what is roleplay? And suddenly they do not know what roleplay is, they're going to end up looking pretty bad for their followers. So perhaps they are a bit afraid that suddenly people will start to unsubscribe because they're going to think, you don't know what roleplay is and you're talking about roleplay? What?
Exactly. And a lot of them do gear their PDFs, their Patreons, all behind kind of like it's all behind a paywall where they get all this information where how to, basically herd cats and how to figure out the dice and stuff like that in certain circumstances, or their tables, their special tables for doing this, or special, little homebrew little things that they throw in. They've geared their channels to all this stuff that they feed off of in order to sustain themselves as a business, basically. So once again, like Abraham and I were talking before the camera started rolling, was a lot of these companies out there are just fixated on making money off of the maps, minis, all the little add-ons and stuff that you purchase. And the same thing is happening with our RPG gurus out there in YouTube, and they are they want to make the money too as well. So they did paint themselves in the corner, especially when it came to 5e and them trying to finagle their way out. You could kind of see them trying to edge their way out, but they couldn't do it. And now they're back into the 5e still. And it's like, whatever happened 3 months ago, nobody remembers that. It's kind of like that right. Time of that issue, whatever that was, because we're not going to mention it anymore, is gone, right? And disappeared as far as they're concerned on the internet. But I mean, there's some real problems there actually, and they're just not going to go away. Yep.
That's why we have to.
Yeah.
The true RPers out there, we don't need any part of a bad system and a bad group think. I never got into it. I've been playing the old games I've had in my collection for many years. I did pick up Mongoose 2nd edition, and I picked up some other stuff, but I'm still going to play the way I've always played, which is, role playing, but I've learned a few new tricks from you guys that really aren't hard to implement at all. It takes a little time on the player's behalf to learn, not to do the Mother May I stuff. But I get it. Sometimes there's no way to get, like if you need to know the color of something, you know what I mean, for whatever reason, how do you role play that? You know what I mean?
The color?
Sometimes, yeah.
I pick up the object to appreciate its shape and color.
Magic. Yeah, you basically have to. You gotta.
That works half the time, but when I can't pick up the item, if it's heraldry off in the distance,
I look at the heraldry to appreciate its color.
It's kind of like a new form of lingo that you have to learn. But that's the thing. That's the thing. You need to have like a dictionary, and I think that'll be one of the things that I need to have happen on this website is say, Abe, build a glossary of all these terms and give an example of of how to circumvent each example.
I am always telling people to watch my video on how to obtain details through roleplay, because that is Everything you need is in that video. And sadly, yes, there are some people that are honest that they want to roleplay, but they are not exactly sure. Shoner, well, I don't want to like expose the other guy, but Shoner used to talk about this guy from the brigade, and he said, "Oh, he's an RPG philosopher, blah blah blah." This RPG philosopher went into a game from a certain ravenous bird, Rick, a certain Mongolian midget.
Yes.
And this Mongolian midget, he's very deceiving. He's a bit of a sociopath. So he got into his game and he started to bamboozle him, giving him all sorts of vague descriptions of the environment. And this guy, let's call him Sam, didn't know how to obtain information. And then he started to ask questions out of character. And it was like, I take a look at the battlefield to appreciate the distance between this foe and this other foe, and that's all he needed to do. So as long as there is roleplay, you can solve everything.
Exactly. And one of the things I got this one, this little quote down here from Black Lodge Games. Running a game is simple, but it takes a lot of energy. That is true. And Shadow could probably attest to me several times in the background after we have our session. I'm kind of like, that, whoa.
It does require an intense amount of focus that isn't normal in our everyday lives. I see now why the sessions are short or shorter than the old school marathon sessions of 8+ hours a day when we were playing the old way, so to speak. But there's nothing wrong with that, especially if you're playing with really good friends, people you've had in your life for one reason or another for a long time. One of these days we're all going to actually have to come down to ShadowCon and just hang out and get to meet one another in person, so that we can always have that instead of trying to chit chat before the game and then more so after the game, because a lot of people really are very social creatures and it's hard for them to pull out of that mode when they're gaming. Hey, oh, that reminds me of this, or that reminds me of that, or did you see this? It's hard, especially, I can see why, Shauna likes to game with people that he doesn't have some of those connections with, but that's just not my style.
The also just recently, just kind of put it out there. I have been showing kind of like a little bit in our live games. When we stop, we kind of settle back and we do a little bit of a talk over and stuff in the background. And that's where I'm pretty exhausted by the end of the night, because I've had to work during the day. Like today, I finished my job at 5:30, got home, grabbed some grub, and like a couple hours later, I here I am streaming this. Where if it was our live game, it would be starting basically almost right about now is when we'd start getting together and starting to group and getting everybody audio fixed and everything. And by the end of it, yeah, you're pooped, and well, I'm pooped anyways. But I had a good time while doing it. That's the thing. It was cool. It was something that I never expected, because I only have all what my NPCs are involved in, what their wants, needs, and stuff are. So when I play them through as NPCs, it's interesting to see what you guys do to kind of sway them into different ways than what they were thinking, or where I was thinking that they would be going with an idea. And when that happens, it's like a very cool surprise for me, because it's something that I don't expect. Like most of the time as a game master, you'd have like everything all set up, right? Like the old way of how you game master, set everything up, and you'd have your notes for every little nook and cranny on the the maze or whatever it is you were going through, and you would know what's going to happen, and it doesn't feel like a surprise when stuff happens. Where in the theater of the mind thing, and the way that you use role play, suddenly these NPCs have, kind of as a game master, have a life, and it's very surprising where certain things go in each session. So, if I if if I could, if I had a way that I could kind of do two versions of the same thing, the session where I was kind of like, funneling you guys through stuff, it would be something totally entirely different than what you guys have been doing currently in your game. So that to me is kind of like the unique thing about the role playing as far as the game master goes, is being able to see this unknown kind of occur as we play, which is nice. Because if I feel like I'm coming into something and I'm basically reading a book to you, I don't feel any kind of like, it's cool, but I don't feel anything that's even remotely close to the unexpected, the unknown that comes up when we start doing our Shadow in the Stars sessions. So, which is something
It's
that
all part of the difference between the railroad and the sandbox.
yeah,
Some
yeah.
some PMs really don't want that. They're not ready for it. Maybe, I remember when I got started, using D&D modules and things like that. And I remember when I'm like, I don't need these anymore. I don't even want these. I want to do my own thing, and see what happens with the players, as opposed to, pretty much know exactly what's going to happen. It got really boring, doing the sandbox. The railroad, there's really very little in the way of surprises that are gonna pop up, and yet people still need their training wheels. So I won't begrudge them that, but I will try to encourage people to hurry up and let them go.
It's actually funny because something very strange happened with the recent modules of Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition. They started to bring out these modules that were based on old school modules, Castle Ravenloft, on the style of the Temple of Elemental Evil. And a lot of players were so attached to the railroad that they actually thought that those modules were very difficult or quite awful because they needed those rails. They couldn't go on their own. That's why there is a certain mixed opinion. I'm going to spoil things a bit, but in a few weeks, I'm going to be running a Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition game featuring Curse of Strahd, which is basically old school Ravenloft. And some
Okay.
people say, that module is amazing, incredible, and some others, no, it's terrible module, you can die right away, it's very easy for you to die. And it's because it's based on the old school module where you have to deal with the consequences of your actions. Through roleplay, you need to explore the world, you need to investigate things, you can't just go crazy. Oh, well, my character is of a certain level, the module is probably balanced on this level, so I can do whatever I like, I'm probably going to win that fight. And that's not how you play in a tabletop RPG.
Yeah, that's kind of hindered the hobby quite a bit. Is it this balancing act that they were trying to do, and that's part of the reason why you have these guys like Colville and everything, like on RPG is Dumb's message here, these guys, because of the way that they play, they have to go ahead and make all these kind of homebrewy kind of rules and create these little things in order to circumvent the problems that they've been having over and over again. And that's, anxious players, feeling that, that they can basically run amok basically through the dungeon because it's geared to their level, and if you got that mindset, it kind of ruins the experience of, where in our games it's like, shit, I can die any second, you just don't know. And the scary thing is, fortunately in our game, with Shadow of the Stars, it hasn't happened really that often. So, which is, I guess, kind of nice, but I don't want to feel like I'm one of these game masters. I don't want to put this impression that I'm a game master that, balances out everything. I mean, you could die pretty much instantaneously if you're not careful.
That's the way it's always been perceived for me, but then again, I use some stuff that was rather deadly back in the day, and still to this day. It should always be that way. The threat of death of your PC should always be a pretty big concern. You should never feel like this is a cakewalk, because when in life has it been a cakewalk? When combat or danger is afoot.
Come on, you're messing with everybody's safe space now, Shadow. Come on.
They're lucky I don't take my flamethrower to their safe space.
Yeah, no kidding. So, yeah. See. Yeah, there. I stopped doing the lengthy games like this, 3 to 4 hours, because basically being older now, and my time is kind of limited. And once again, I probably said this on numerous times on other videos. Just having as much as you can do within the session, within a 90-minute session, especially when you're just theater of the mind and role playing, you can get amazing amounts of stuff done as compared to a 6 or 4 hour session doing the old, kind of like that, the old way of roll ROLL role playing.
I had a question pop in. Do you find that the time of day has anything to do with it? I noticed most people online tend to play their games rather late, like after dinner kind of thing. Whereas when I was growing up, that's when it was time to pack it in, so to speak. Dinners, street lights are coming on. Mind you, that was when I was really young. And then later, with family and things like that, let's, call it a night. Or do you find that it's, you have more energy, or you just have enough energy after, later hours?
At the time when I was younger, you would be like going through between jobs or whatever. You'd have some time where you could have like a spur, like back then. We did have a little bit of a recession back in the 80s and 90s. So there was times where you would be off work for a while, so you would have these games where they would go on, starting in the morning, and you would play on. But ever since I've been a tile setter, floor layer, for so many years that I had been just busy all the way through the 90s, because it was a major buildup era at that time. And I was just way too busy to go ahead and have these games where you could just show up in the morning. It had to be in the evening, and just the same as it is today. I work a full-time salary job, and I just don't have the time to go ahead and do a morning session unless it's on my day off. But on my days off, I'm usually trying to pull apart a deck or something in the back, or do something around the house instead, so the wife doesn't get too angry at me. You know how that goes. If you've ever been married.
I think that question is quite complex because there could be several factors. Because, for example, during the day, because we are constantly receiving energy from the sun, you are usually more active. But at the same time, we are all working or doing some other things. So yes, we definitely, most of us, I think, cannot play during the day unless it's a weekend. And a lot of people, well, they usually spend their weekends with other friends and family. So usually dedicate the night to role play. But I have also noticed that when people eat a lot, of course, this is quite logical, they tend to become a bit drowsy after eating. So that also lowers your level of energy. That's why I usually ask my players to not to eat before the session, so that they are a bit more energetic during the session.
Yeah, that might be something that we would have to it would be
Experiment
an
with?
interesting, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Because I know, yeah, we're basically taking a time for us
And it's
is
Sunday
basically,
night.
yeah. So, but the thing is, Sunday is a work day for me, so it's not like I get weekends like anybody else would. My weekends tend to be either a split Monday and Wednesday, or just recently it's been like 2 days in a row, which thank goodness I finally get some 2 days in a rows off. But
Well,
the only
for
other,
me, I find that Sunday nights are like really bad because everybody is, even though they're supposed to have, relaxed on the weekend, they're like the tiredest they can be is Sunday night. They're like freaking exhausted from, maybe doing too many fun things on the weekend and not actually using it to rest up for the impending Monday right around the corner.
right.
A Friday night, when we have the game with Bo, Friday nights are, are pretty energetic most of the times, unless, something with the story is, a little bit more intense. But it's something to think about because if there is an optimal night to play or type of thing, not getting all astrology, but if there's within the human condition a better night to game, that's kind of the night I want to put my favorite game on.
Right. Gotcha. Yeah, my best optimal time of the week is usually usually on the Wednesday night, because the Wednesday night I can play till late,
Mhm.
but the next morning I don't go to work until 12:30. So I do a 12:30 to 8:30 in the evening kind of shift. That's kind of and then I miss, Black Lodge games and their games, or they have like some sort of thing going on at that time. So I'm always missing that. And other people are also having their streams at that time too. So I'm always like, I still got to work. So I usually like pop in on their stream while I'm having my lunch or my break on Discord, and I go ahead and type something saying, "Hey, hey guys, how's it going?" You kind of idea, to let them know, "Hey, there's other people out here, waving at you too." But yeah, I guess yeah, Sunday isn't exactly the most optimal kind of night, but it's the one that we were given for the meantime. But in the future, maybe we can probably pop it onto a more exceptional day. Like I'm not too sure how Wednesday would work out with everybody else, but you know, it would time will tell. Um, To make it beyond the average NPC goon, the world begins to get safer and death becomes more dependent on bad decisions or terrible fortune. That is that isn't that is true in quite a few of the games that are out there. Um, but if you're feeling like a badass like Conan mowing down picks by the dozens, uh you know you kind of realize where your place in the world is as well. Yeah, the bad decision or terrible misfortune, yeah, that becomes evidence when you're not thinking, and 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 you do something extremely dumb. I mean, people have done extremely dumb things, I guess, but I don't know. What do you think of that, Abe? Do you ever get into games that go on? Like, do you have like campaign games that continue on, and they're like building up their character as it goes along, and then suddenly, something like this happens, a bad decision or terrible fortune, and there you go.
When I first started to play tabletop RPGs, I was constantly thinking about that, the consequences of how things would be as the campaign escalated. But
Right.
later on, throughout the years, I started to put more emphasis on roleplay. So there was always this element of risk because of the actions. Sometimes there would be insta death, even if you had who knows how many hit points, you had 80 hit points, and you did something very stupid like, okay, I'm going to jump into the lava. I don't care if the rules tell you that, the lava deals this much damage to you per turn. If you jump into the lava and there is no magical reason to save you from it, that's it. It's over for you. So I always manage that sort of element of risk as the campaign progressed.
I know in Jacob's games here, it's either somebody's pegging somebody off, like a player versus player kind of a thing, or it's just something that, yeah, you're way out in the open, and of course you're going to get sniped so badly in the situation or whatever. There's going to be situations where it's just like, I'm a dead man, unless there's some sort of an act of God that comes along here and strikes that sniper off in the distance. I'm roasted.
I think that actually rescues many systems, because I don't know if you know about the naked dwarf syndrome. Do you know about that?
The naked dwarf. Okay, let's hear this.
In Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay First Edition, if you were to play a naked dwarf, a typical like a slayer with no shirt, almost naked, your toughness could surpass the best armor in the game. So that was nonsensical. How come this slayer naked dwarf has more toughness, more resistance to damage when compared to this knight in full plate? It was nonsensical. You could basically walk your naked dwarf into the middle of the battlefield and they could start raining arrows at you. They wouldn't hit you. No way in hell. So that's when roleplay comes into play. If a dwarf does that, that's going to be an insta death, an insta kill. There is not going to be something saving you. It's illogical. So people that understood that, they still enjoyed Warhammer Fantasy First Edition. But those that got stuck on the rules, they were like, no, this game is broken. We cannot play it anymore because the dwarf is invincible when he is naked.
So yeah, they're basically gaming the game mechanics in order to gain the full advantage of and kind of perverting the entire mechanics of the game. But yeah. Having the role play in there, and you pull back the mechanics into the background instead, definitely helps. More stuff here. It doesn't have the 6 to 8 hour games all at once. I have other things. Yeah, exactly. That's a tough thing about being when we're older adults, have kids, families, wives, children, you name it. It becomes a little bit tougher, and you have to kind of manage your time at it. I'm kind of lucky where where all my kids are grown up enough that they're all in kind of in their independent state. That my youngest one, he's like he's what, 20, let's see, 20, no, he's 21 this year. And I have a couple of grandkids already. So I see them every once in a while. I don't see them as much as I want, mainly because I'm working during the days that my wife goes in and visits them and stuff. But they're still in the town. They come in sometimes to the store and see Grandpa every once in a while. So that's cool. But yeah, you do realize that your time is kind of at a premium. You're always struggling to go ahead and be able to play with everybody online, and that's a tough thing. But finding that 90-minute session for me has been like kind of the peak. You can get a lot done, and I've proven you can get quite a bit done in my game quite easily if you stay with that formula. But if I was to go back to playing with the virtual tabletop with the maps and minis and everything, I'm basically going to be there for, a 3 hour session at least, doing the same thing in half the time, using the theater of the mind and more role playing. Also, there is a vast difference between all of the styles too, like the way things are happening in my games, how I do certain things in my game, how Abe does things in his game, and the Black Lodge guys as well, how they do things. You can see the different styles, and there's all these little, and that's the neat thing is you can kind of watch these things and go, where do I fit in within this kind of spectrum? Because within the spectrum of role playing, there's going to be, you know, from basic to some super advanced kind of stuff going on there with the players and the game master. And that's once again, I'm stressing that you can't have one without the other. You have to have the role playing game master as well as the players in order to make this all work. If you have the role playing players with the traditionalist game master, it's not going to work. This game master is not going to be able to function properly in his setting, the way he presents it, because the players are doing a lot of things that are to him going off the rails and going off the storyline that he has, kind of committed himself in writing and everything. And that seems to be, once again, one of the problems with players and game masters out there, is not being able to connect in the same level. So there's a lot of players out there getting discouraged, and that's why, once again, which is the reason why of this stream, having something like the RPG Crusade, kind of have a place located where these players can find these game masters, and the game masters can find the players, in order to have that fulfilling experience of role play, instead of the old traditional D&D from three. Basically, I look at it as from 3.5 onwards, it kind of just took off into that realm of virtual tabletops and gaming on maps and minis and stuff.
Because let's face it, those I've been in a lot of games with the virtual tabletops and all that. They don't add a single thing to it that's better than my own imagination.
Yeah,
that's what it's always been about for me. It is picturing it, in my head. That's a part of the immersion, is to feel, like you're there. And when you're focusing on something that's so clearly not that, don't get me wrong, I play a lot of board games. I love Shadows of Brimstone and others, and different ways of having fun. But when I buy into one of these kinds of games, it's a completely different memory. I often have a hard time remembering, the scenes at the table, because it's all up here with the actual, process that my brain has gone through to make me imagine this stuff. It's always been a game of imagination, and the more you step away from that, the less fulfilling it is, at least for me.
yeah. I know Abraham is going to be having his horror game coming up too, in a couple weeks or so here.
Yeah, if possible, I hope we can play it from this Tuesday to the other. So next week's Tuesday.
It's going to be? It's going to be on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
Okay.
Probably. We still need to check things out with the players, but I think two of them are okay with playing on Tuesday. I need to check out with the third player. We're going to have Josh, Alberto, and Tyler.
Yeah, that's what.
For you, Abe. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, just a question.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I've been thinking about horror games a lot lately. How they seem to have something special that the other games don't have. Obviously, the element of horror. But do you find that that's easier to get immersed in and more rewarding because of that horror aspect and that fear of the unknown. The I don't know exactly how to put it. The the, the 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 vast difference between those kinds of games where you're buying into, like when you watch a horror movie that you're hoping to get scared, you're hoping for that, but at the same time you're holding back on it because of all of the real world interferences. Do you find it's more conducive for role playing?
Only if you speak in first person all the time. I think that's the best way of playing a horror tabletop RPG, because you can roleplay in third person. You can say, my character approaches this door, blah, blah, blah. But if you play in first person, I move closer towards the door. I pull out my gun and start to slowly turn the handle. So when you get into that mindset, the first person mindset, then truly you start to feel the horror, the scares of that game. And that's what I want to showcase with this horror one shot in Tuesday next week, because everyone is going to be speaking in first person.
Cool.
That's something I talk a lot about, is the emotional response as a DM that we can incite or elicit with our players. If we're really on our game, I've seen people cry and laugh and scream and get angry, not at me, but at the situation. If we're really good at what we're doing, we can, if there was a way to see through our players and we could see the galvanic responses, the increased breathing, the heartbeat, the maybe even the sweat and the things like that. Those are things I'm constantly striving for, is to bring out an emotion they weren't expecting when I DM.
Yes, that's true. I think there needs to be a certain commitment to horror. If you're going to get someone into a horror RPG that is just there to tell jokes, yeah, well, first of all, that person is not going to be role playing, so you don't want him in your game. But even so, if you get into the mindset of the character, you need to be open to experience those horror situations, to have those responses, as you mentioned.
That's something you're the first person when you first said that on your first video describing how you were going to put together this game. I thought that was really cool. That's the thing, is a lot involving horror. The game master they can only project a certain amount of the detail, and they have to let the player themselves imagine their own kind of concept of what's happening in order for their brain to contribute what they think is horror to them. Because to me, there's certain things that scare me which may not scare you, and vice versa. So when you describe something like, seeing the eyes, flash in the darkness, right away, one person might be thinking, oh, they see glowing green eyes. Another player might think, oh, I'm seeing glowing red eyes or whatever it is, but because that is more scary to them than seeing something with green eyes,
or smaller human eyes.
Smaller, yeah, or maybe they look like animal eyes to them. Letting the players have that ability to, conjure that up in their own minds. You just give them enough, the flash of the eyes in the darkness, and then let them figure out what the color is, how they look to them. Because once again, horror is subjective to the players themselves, so they have to conjure up that kind of mindset as they play. Yeah. So yeah, it's a little tricky with that, because as a game master, if you're describing something like these creepy dolls, kind of come up from the little toy trunk and they start. They're clambering over it. You could do little details, but then you're also kind of taking away some of some of the imagination of what the players are, but you have to just give them just enough. For me, I'm going to have to try to keep myself from bringing my hands into the and just describe it instead. And sometimes that is a little bit more effective than kind of
I
doing
think
that.
No, doing that with your hands right there actually worked for me.
Okay.
And of course, it's funny you mentioned that because my son and I we were talking about Jonathan Colton, who has a song called "Creepy Doll" that he also "Eat Your Brains." That song, I forget the exact title of it, but we were talking about that. But no, I actually do rely on my hands, or at least I try to, when doing this, because sometimes for whatever reason, it allows me to emote a little better, to get into it. And when I play, and I had this one player a long time ago. He was one of the best RPers I've ever known. And he couldn't sit still. He'd be getting up out of his chair and doing the things, and the gestures and everything. And he was really, I miss the guy dearly. And I'm hoping that that's okay in your guys' opinion, that if a player is at your table and they need to stand up and get more into it. I don't know, do you guys have a problem with that sort of thing?
I think if it's not, oh, go ahead, Rick.
Well, okay, I've had a couple of players that were like that in the past, but I don't know. I've always ended up with just the players that kind of sat down and enjoyed kind of like being in the moment of the game in the past. So, but in my more recent, like from 2007 on, I haven't actually. All my games have been online games basically until as of recently in the last few years. So the last few years, I've been actually been able to kind of like just before the COVID thing happened, we started to have like groups together where we could like play and actually be face to face. So to me, it was kind of like relearning everything again, being face to face with everybody and getting things set up. But there again, I didn't change into like trying to do the full trying to do role play experience until, like I said, just recently when I started to switch it up from playing on a virtual tabletop to actually doing the theater of the mind, full theater of the mind. Even my games that I had during um just before the pandemic were just still we had maps drawn out and everything so that people could see where they went and stuff like that. So everybody was kind of sitting and enjoying the game that way. I didn't really have anybody recently that had to like get up and run around or anything like that. Abe.
Yeah, I think that when it comes to using the hands, I think that's perfect because the hands can be quite abstract. Even if you do this or that or whatever, everyone is going to imagine your hands differently with claws or bigger, smaller. So I think that's a great way of playing with the player's imagination or providing the
Right.
tools to better visualize what you're describing. But when it comes to standing up, I actually discourage that because I think it initiates a certain like a chain reaction where suddenly everyone is standing up and it feels like you're doing something else. So personally, I actually like using the hands, but I would discourage standing up all the time, personally.
Saving a character at the expense of your world credibility isn't worth it, which is true. Even in the Shadow of the Stars, I'm constantly rolling to see who's getting sucked out of the out of the ship or whatever. It's just a totally random roll for me. If it's a player, I will give them the like a shot at trying to save themselves. But as far as an NPC, like they're going to be gone, right? Because I would rather have less NPCs and more player action, of course.
Mhm.
But yeah, trying to sacrifice the consistency of your game, or the hardness of your game, or the feel of grit, gritty, this is do or die kind of thing. If you're not if you're not exemplifying it during the game, and you're just giving in to your players, like giving them the save, that they don't deserve, it kind of does something to your game, where it's like, what, we could do whatever we want, because the game master's going to save us anyways. They're going to start feeling like that after a while. So that's true. But as far as you guys have anything else you guys want to talk about? Because I think I'm gonna pretty much wrap it up here, and call her for the night. Um, any ideas that you may want to see happen with this RPG Crusade?
Oh,
Anything that-
absolutely. If we could be more inviting to those that are curious about this, or have been wanting more of this kind of a situation, let's let's look more toward the carrot than stick mentality. Because I found that even the slightest bit of negativity can push people away rather quickly. It's so easy to fall back into the old comfortable way of playing the games that they love, as opposed to taking up a new challenge. Because despite what some people think, this can be both hard and incredibly easy, depending on different people and their previous experiences. I'm hoping to I met a lot of great people over the last year by coming online and doing this sort of thing. I was happy doing things the way I was doing them for decades, not thinking there was anything wrong with, not that there really was, but that there's a better way to get into the immersion. Which, if you think about when we started as youngsters in this hobby, we were there, we were right there in the moment, and we could see it, we could smell it, we could feel it. And as we got older and more distractions come along, it gets easier to sort of forget about the joy that we had when we first got into this hobby. And there's a lot of people out there that really would love to get into it. And if we, like I said, use the carrot, we'll meet new people that will make it all worthwhile.
Abe?
Yeah, I think that's true. And I actually quite surprised and glad at the same time that I got some people into my actual place that thought that they weren't up to snuff. Because I have mentioned that Josh, first he thought, no, I'm not at your level. And Josh, it's very easy. And you can see he's an excellent role player. Alberto as well. They pretty much, in my opinion, they surpassed the majority of players out there. And they thought that perhaps they were not exactly good enough. Everyone, as long as you want to role play, you are good enough. That's it. And if you make a mistake, try again. You made a mistake, try again. Try again. That's it. As simple as that. It's
Right.
easy.
Yeah. That was a pretty fun session, and that was a very unique set, like the mechanics behind that whole thing of your what was it called? Smash Bros.
Super Mash Bro.
Super Mash Bros. Yeah, that was very interesting. It was a totally different take on a role play game based on kind of Mario Nintendo kind of stuff, which was
And
cool.
I actually also hope that people understand that they can play any RPG that they like, anyone. Because something that I have criticized of Shoner is that he wants you to play Traveler the way he plays Traveler, and that's it. that is the only way. And I told him, you can play any tabletop RPG out there. Shoner, you cannot role play dungeon crawls. Watch the Dark and Terrible campaign. You cannot role play combat. Watch the Super Smash Bros. Campaign. So those of you that want to get into tabletop RPGs, you can play any game that you want. As long as you role play, you're going to be playing a role-playing game.
Exactly. You are a great exemplar of the role playing genre that we hope to all achieve there, Abe. And as far as me with this site, um, I'm not having it there to go ahead and smear anybody, but to call out what is in order for people to understand the distinction between you know actual role play and what they perceive as role play. And as soon as we can kind of clarify all that stuff and give them the information that they need, I think things will settle down in a little bit more of a brighter light as things come along. I'm not putting the site out there to bash anybody, but to make people realize that there is a distinction between what we are trying to achieve and what, say, Bob the World Builder and DM's Lair, all those guys, Seth Skorkowski, you name it. I have seen them play, and we know how they play, and it's okay if they want to go ahead and play that way. That's how they roll. But we want to have that distinction, knowing that, hey, this is what we mean by role play, and keep that defined so it doesn't get stretched and distorted like it seems to be getting lately.
And that's what I don't like. A lot of people are actually, they want to role play, but they get misled because they tell you, no, this is role playing. And you tell those content creators, no, that's not role play. And they ignore you because, like I said, it's not in their interest. But for those of you that want to role play, there is a way to role play.
And then we have exactly on there on that quote. And character death is fun anyways. Especially when you got a good system that you can roll up a character right away again, and you're like, I want to try this time, with this kind of a character. Oh, I can't wait, and you're just playing a new player in the game, which personally I like to present as a game master, a rolling campaign where players can come in and keep on going through. And in the case of my games, it's more of the story of the ship. And for me, as the game master, it's the players which come in and go and become part of the crew, which is part of what creates their story in the game. And as long as that ship is still rolling with all its bells and whistles and AI and other things that has been accumulating on that, that's the way I think during my Traveler games. That story can keep on going as long as that ship survives, and the players are still involved with it. And that's the way I kind of look at my own games. But we'll just get to Black Lodge here on the one thing. One thing I really like about these OSR games is the quick character, and that's the charm about the more simpler systems, which I gravitate towards too, because I do like to have everything in the background. You as a player in the foreground doing your character, as your persona, and if those things come into play, then you bring them out, the die rolls and stuff like that. It's not always dictating every little aspect of your game session, and just having the simple game mechanics. Like I loved first edition D&D. It was so simple, so easy. It was very basic. And whatever the game master decided as the rule of cool at that time, what is what went, as long as it sounded reasonable and solid in their head to the rules of the physics of their land, it worked. And as long as you kept with that, consistently, your world becomes more realistic, even though it's got magic and weird stuff going on and spirits or whatever. but as long as it stays consistent in that world, it works all the time. And having quick, a quick, easy, simple, mechanics makes that a whole lot easier to. Well, I find it's a lot more easier to role play in, and you don't have to, it had levels and stuff. Traveler, you don't have the levels, so it's like, your characters are evolving as they go along, but it's more of a psychological evolving as well, instead of, all on paper, which is the cool part. But we should go ahead and wrap her up. It's almost time for my bedtime here. Almost 10 there.
Pleasure, guys. Thanks for having me on.
It's
Yeah,
been a
thank you.
pleasure.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure. And thank you, Abe, as well. And you guys are awesome for popping in. I hope the rest of you guys, Jacob and the guys from Black Lodge, I hope one day you guys pop on in here. I will always have, the link ready for you guys to throw yourselves in here and talk to your heart's content, because usually I try to let people talk to more than I normally do. And we have the gang out here saying, right on. Okay, awesome, guys. So have an awesome night. Thank you once again, Abe. Thank you once again, Shadow. I'll go ahead and put links in the description once this video is done and everything, and we'll go from there, so everybody can kind of follow everybody, and even Hungar will have a link in order to get to Abe's channel as well. So once again, we'll go ahead and lead out with the atypical kind of ending to my sessions. You guys have a good night.
Hey, since you made it this far to the video at the end, you may as well hit that subscribe button, because it's free. Honest, it's free. Just go ahead and hit it. I'm learning stuff. You are learning stuff. We all learn together. Subscribe. Just do it.